All right. Well, we are live now, gentlemen.
Okay.
Sweet.
So, I have with me Aaron, a very special guest who did a very cool thing. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay, well, I'm Aaron Fullan. I live in Clinton, Iowa, currently, and I auditioned for a Star Wars contest recently, and I won. That's really all you need to know about me right now.
Yeah, because that's like super cool. So, like, what sort of a competition was it?
Well, it was hosted by CableTV.com, and basically they are, from what I could understand, they were like a go-between for cable companies where you type in your zip code and then they recommend cable providers. Anyway, they did a big PR push for a Star Wars contest that they were going to pay one person $1,000 to watch.
It's close to your mouth.
Yes.
Just pull it.
Pardon me.
Cool.
How's that?
That is good, yeah.
Okay. So they are going to pay $1,000 to one person to watch all 10 of the canonical Star Wars films.
Which is more than 10 hours of watching.
Yes, it was 22 and a half hours. And initially I thought it was a marathon where they were like, don't take breaks. But they clarified that it was totally fine if I wanted to take breaks.
Yeah.
Which was greatly appreciated. Yeah.
So what kind of a time frame did they give you? Just before the new movie came out?
Yep.
Or?
It was a week exactly before the Rise of Skywalker came out. So they said, I got the call on a Friday afternoon, and the call kept dropping. I was so like, all they could get out was, this is so-and-so from CableTV.com, and all of a sudden the call dropped. And I'm like, what in the world? And then I kept calling them back 2 or 3 times before we finally connected, and she said, you won. I'm trying to tell you, you won.
Just take the reward.
Yeah. So then they announced it that night. They said 10,000 people applied and auditioned.
And you got the gig.
Yeah.
Very cool. So how many hours is that actually to watch all the movies? Is it? Let me guess. It's like probably 16?
22.
2.5? Okay.
22.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of hours.
It was a lot of hours, but it was a lot of fun. It was really fun. And I went in order.
Chronologically?
Yes.
Or like when they were... Okay.
Chronologically.
So I always have that question. I've asked some of my friends, like, because my girlfriend, she is not familiar with Star Wars at all.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
There's a reason alone, to break up with her.
I'm sure she's nice.
Yeah, she's not. I mean, she's nice.
Good personality.
She's not.
She's great.
But I was like, I'm trying to think of like, what movie should I start to get into it? Do I do, A New Hope, or do I go way back to like a Phantom Menace, or like what,
It's a big question.
Yeah, because I feel like part of the, for us, we watched it in that certain order. But like, if you were to just start, should it be the chronological order?
It's tough. The reason I decided to go with chronological is because I hate to say this, prequels I like the least, probably. So I was like, I will start with prequels and go all the way through. Plus, I wanted to get a bigger, like, overarching view of it, which I had never done before. Yeah. And it really was a good way to go through it. So, if you're taking my recommendation, I would do it chronological.
Yeah, that's probably the way that I would do it, too, because it's... How long has it been since you've actually watched them? Before this? I can tell you for me.
I had watched... It has been the longest since I watched the prequels.
Yes.
I've watched 4, 5, and 6 in the past couple of years.
Right.
And then obviously the new ones that have come out, I watched those in theaters when they released. But the prequels, probably a decade or so.
Yeah. I know. Probably for a lot of them, it's probably just like 6 years. But like I remember all of them. I've seen some of the shows, and obviously watching like The Mandalorian. Man, that's so crazy you haven't seen that.
I know.
So you don't get any of the Baby Yoda memes or anything?
No, I was completely on Facebook. I'm like, what is this little creature?
Yeah.
He's cute,
He is.
but I don't know what he is.
No, nothing.
So, but I've heard phenomenal things, and I do have Disney Plus now, so good. I'm going to start it soon.
I've actually heard rumors that Jon Favreau and somebody else are going to be working on some of the movies too.
Really?
Yeah, that they're expanding his role as like...
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing.
For a possible new trilogy, is it? Because there's,
I've been
there was talk of Rian Johnson doing another trilogy.
Yes,
and then
I did see that.
There's rumors that it might not be the Rian Johnson trilogy, but there's a trilogy that might focus on they were calling it the High Republic era. So would that technically be what we know of as like the Old Republic? I Knights of the Old Republic.
I would think
Yeah,
so.
probably.
So-
Yeah.
That's where they need to go, I think.
Yeah.
Because they've been spending a lot of time, like, after,
Well, there was such demand for that in general. The Knights
Yeah.
of the Old Republic show.
Well,
or
those are
movie,
big
and-
for, like, in
Yeah.
video games. I know that a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of them go there.
Mhm.
Because I'm a big video gamer. I love a lot of the Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like those properties.
Which was sad when Disney bought Lucasfilm. They scrapped a lot of video game
Yeah,
storyline.
they did. They did. They
Like
got rid of a lot
Cotton
of
Guitar,
stuff.
and they said it's no longer
Yeah.
relevant.
I
That still
know.
hurts. You played all those
And then they
games
wipe
and-
out all the books and all the comic
Yeah.
thing. I remember
Yeah.
like being like almost in grade school and reading the extended universe books.
I was
And
still
then being
reading.
like,
I was still reading those books
Yeah.
when they decided, they're not a thing.
Yeah.
Well, they are. It's like another universe now.
yeah,
Like
I mean it's
Legends
there,
or
but it's not
something.
part of it. Like I
Yeah.
still distinctly remember reading something about like Vader's glove and some dude would wear it and it would possess people or like I don't know. Like,
That was-
maybe they did need
yeah,
to get
that
rid
was-
of some of it. I
I always remember there being some books, some series of the expanded universe to read, and others not so
Yes,
much.
Yeah.
where
That
they
was
didn't
like
count.
a young adult series that was way early. I think that came out before we were even born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before the prequels were released.
Mhm. Yeah, a lot of it did. So you said you watched them all through chronologically.
Yep.
Do they all still hold up for you?
You know what? I was pleasantly surprised in a lot of ways, even with, it's easy to be hard on the prequels, but to me, they were better than I remembered. It was really hard on Jar Jar Binks. Still not my favorite character in
Right.
the entire franchise, that's for
Okay.
sure. But he bugged me less,
Mhm.
and I wasn't a huge fan of the child actor that played Anakin, but I was less critical of him as well.
Yeah.
So I felt like I watched it with a little less critical eye
Mhm.
and just enjoyed it for the story, and it was a pleasant experience overall. So I think it was a good way to do it, just
Mhm.
watching it straight through because the story panned out
It
way
really does.
better than I remember.
Those are usually
Right.
people's two biggest problems with Phantom Menace was Jar Jar Binks and
Yeah.
I can't remember the actor's
I
name.
can't either.
Jake something, isn't it? Like Jake.
Was that the little
Jake
kid?
Lloyd.
Yeah.
Jake Lloyd.
That yeah.
There was something. I think he was in the news a few years ago about like he was arrested for like going like over like 100 miles per hour.
Really?
Just
Ferrari?
speeding.
Wow, with his
It was
Star
like a
Wars
high-
money.
high-speed
You're like, I
chase
hate
or
his
something.
performance. He's driving
Yeah.
around Ferraris. He's like, I don't care. What
He just
you
wanted to podcast again. You know?
Yeah.
He wanted
Yeah.
that.
That was
thrill.
his thing.
Well, and I feel bad. Some of these Star Wars actors, people take it so personally
Mhm.
when their precious story is
Yeah.
messed with.
Yeah.
So, like, he took a beating after that movie
Yeah.
and kind of wrecked his career.
Yeah.
The Jar Jar Binks guy, the guy who played his
Delve
voice,
into-
yeah, he said there was a suicide attempt
Mhm.
because of the backlash he was
Yeah.
going.
Oh,
I mean,
they
he
get
did
so
a
much
good
hate
job.
mail.
Yeah.
People just did
It was
not
just
like
his
the
character.
character.
Yeah.
Right.
And I
But it's
even
taken-
to be honest with you, I don't hate Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
I don't hate Ewoks. I don't hate.
I
what
love
I mean?
Ewoks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
When the
There's a
when the
split on that,
fandom
too.
can get that kind of
Yeah.
toxic, it
But
gets
that's how
like-
you know
They
that
can't
they're that into it. Like,
Oh
they
my
love it
goodness.
that much to elicit that
Ravenous.
reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I kind of subscribe to like the conspiracy theory almost that, and I'm sure you've heard that Jar Jar Binks was supposed to be like a Sith Lord or something. Have you heard anything about that?
You know what?
already?
I just
And-
read that
yeah,
theory.
and I was like, man, that would have been so cool. Like, it would have all been worth it. You would have been like,
Yeah.
okay, now I get it. He was
Yeah.
just pretending to be a dummy.
They seem to set up things like, they could have been. I mean, clearly that's not what they were going for.
Yeah.
But they released right after they released that initial Rise of Skywalker trailer.
Mm-hmm.
There was a ton of fan edits. Well, one of the best ones
was the one they changed it to
they-
Jar Jar. Yeah, I saw it.
they had the Palpatine laugh there at the end, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, like Palpatine!" Well, somebody took that but subbed in Jar Jar saying "Misa back,"
Misa
and
back.
then Star Wars, and it.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah, I know. I would have made me good.
So yeah, God bless the person who
Yeah, that was
that
pretty
made
cool.
that. But
I think that, like, because even just like in the recaps that I've been watching, like, it gave me goosebumps just even like reading the story beats or to see some of the and obviously this is one of the most overanalyzed series that
Mhm.
exists, so people are going to apply more maybe intention than
Yeah.
what there really was in places. But
Yeah.
I think, God, man, this is just, it brings me back. It gives you that weird like a feeling in your stomach, like that nostalgia.
Big
You're
time.
just like, I imagine you had like a lot of that going through watching this
Oh,
series.
very much
To where
so.
you're just like, God, I love this.
Yes. Yeah. And it was way more emotional, I guess, watching it
Yes.
through this time. And like the Revenge of the Sith, super emotional,
Mhm.
close to that with Padme and then Anakin and Obi fighting, and everything
Mhm.
is going downhill, and they're setting it up so perfectly for the prequel or for
Yes.
the 4, 5, and 6. And it just hit me more than it has in the
Yeah.
past. And I'm a huge fan of the music.
It's always flawless. No one can ever complain about their music.
No,
Any
that
of the
is a
sound effects.
steady thing.
None of
from-
that. Even just hearing like the lightsaber idling sound, you're like, God, that's so cool.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Well, that inspired you to get into the music.
Correct.
career as
Yeah,
well, right?
yeah. I went to see John Williams, who
Yes.
wrote the
God, that
music
must
for
have been
all 9 of
crazy.
them.
So that was back in the heyday still. too.
Yes, 2008. So
Yes.
right after the 4, 5, and 6 came out, or 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
And so I saw him live, and sat at the Chicago Symphony and was like, "This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I'm going to do."
Mhm.
So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm doing
Yeah.
music full time
That's
for
awesome.
different media and
Mhm.
films, and so he's the reason I'm doing what I'm doing.
That's awesome.
He's amazing, and I want to meet him, and I haven't met him yet.
Yeah.
I've gotten so close. I went to LA last year,
Mhm.
and I met with his orchestrator. I went to his home studio
Oh,
in Woodland Hills, California, and this gated home. And I went in, and he showed me, let's see, which movie was it? It was last year. Oh, The Last Jedi. So it was The
Mhm.
Last Jedi score
Mhm.
was out
I just
on
laid
his
out,
desk
but,
in
yeah.
his studio with John Williams
Yeah.
notes on it. He's like,
Man.
"That's
Check
John
this
Williams
out.
writing right there."
Ooh.
And
No
so
pictures,
we,
just-
yeah,
Just looking at it.
and the movie hadn't released yet,
Yeah.
and so they had just recorded the music, and he was like, "John Williams is a good musical hero to have, in
Yeah.
case you're wondering." So
Yeah.
I'm still holding out hope.
I remember seeing some award show that was like they had a salute to John Williams, and an orchestra played like a medley of all his songs. And I never really knew this was years ago, but I never really knew up to that point.
How much he had actually done.
Yeah, I mean, you could name a handful of movies off the top of your
Yeah.
head, but then there's more that you also like.
Mhm.
Didn't you do like Gladiator and stuff? I mean, there's
Did
always
he
like
do
the-
Indiana Jones?
There's
He did
Jaws,
Indiana
Indiana
Jones,
Star
Harry
Wars,
Potter.
Harry Potter.
I was
yeah.
gonna say everything that he does though is just like iconic.
You
It's
kind of
so
forget.
memorable.
you
there's so
immediately
many.
like, oh yeah, that's from that movie.
Right,
You know?
right.
Yeah.
He's the most Oscar-nominated person other than Disney.
Yeah.
He's received like 50 Oscar nominations,
Yeah.
50 plus.
As he should.
Yeah.
Dude is an amazing composer.
And he has announced officially that number 9, The Rise of Skywalker, was
Mhm.
his last one. So,
Really.
yeah, he's 80, upper 80s.
Yeah, he's like, I'm done with this.
He's
Well, they-
retiring.
Yeah.
And they've proven
that.
too that with I think Rogue One was it Michael Giacchino?
Yep, you're right.
I think he did like the music for Lost, which was
He
great.
did. Yep.
So they've kind of, and I'm not sure who did the music for Solo, but they've kind of proven that other
People can.
other musicians can step. I mean, it's not the same,
It's
Yeah.
not quite the
but
same.
they can still step in and do well.
and just take
Yeah.
that inspiration kind of from what
Yeah.
he did.
hmm
Like, not every movie needs or like show needs like that sort of entire orchestra to like
Right.
make, but like for movies like that, it's such a perfect
It fits.
fit. Yes.
Yeah.
You can tell the difference. Star Wars doesn't have it.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. I feel like
It's
that's a
almost
big
that
part
big
of it.
Scale.
You know, after when you get like that dun dun
Yeah.
the thing, and you're just like, oh, okay, here we go.
The ride's about to begin.
Yes, exactly. Before anything, I think it's a combination of like, because I've always sat like, what is it about Star Wars that kind of makes it? I mean, obviously, there's so much of the hype, and it's such a classic thing. But what is it in like a minute aspect that makes it so good? I think it's a combination of the visuals, of the storytelling that was a little bit ahead of its time.
Mhm.
At the time, especially not only with the sci-fi thing, like he kind of like, I don't even know what you would call it. It's like a sci-punk
Yeah.
type thing. That's
Yeah.
what Star Wars is. It's like like a,
Doesn't
a
quite fit a
steampunk, or it's not like a super, but it's like
Well, it draws from so much. with
Yes.
Religion and
all
Mhm.
those things exactly. So it's like that sort of thing, and then obviously Leia was a strong female character
Right.
before that was like in vogue to do that
Right.
sort of thing, and the visuals and everything. And I just think, well, I think it's just the right combination of everything,
Yep.
while excelling in a few of those aspects that really makes it stand out
Yep.
so very much. And I think a lot of the new, and now Disney owns them as well, all the new Marvel movies are really finally hitting that sort of combination of things which is why I think those are so popular right now too.
Yeah.
Because it used to be just like it was just nerds and geeks and stuff that were into that stuff, and now for everyone they're like, yeah, I mean, Captain America's pretty cool. I like Iron Man.
I mean, back when there was the original trilogy, there was really, if we were talking universes, there was just Star Wars and Star Trek, and now you've got your Marvel or DC, and
exactly.
Like I'm sure there's more
that are all huge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and I think what everybody appreciates about it too is it was an underdog story. Like when it first came out, well, no one wanted to finance it.
Yes.
None of the major studios thought it would be a hit. Sci-fis were not money makers,
No.
and so no one would fund him. And then they finally did, and they released it in a small number of theaters. And it didn't pick up hype until the second weekend. And then all of a sudden, all the theaters are like, we're packing these places.
Yeah.
And then it was a monster hit.
Forever.
And so I think a lot of people appreciate that fact too. We all cheer for underdogs, and knowing that this whole saga started as an underdog
and it almost didn't
story.
happen.
Yeah. And the characters are so strong, as far as Luke, Leia, Han, and then all of a sudden we feel like sympathy for these metal objects called droids.
Exactly.
And it's amazing that R2-D2 can beep and emit emotion, and C-3PO, who's like got no emotion, but we all feel for him.
Exactly.
It's an amazing combo. So everything clicked, everything worked. And what I'm a little nervous about with Disney purchasing Lucasfilm and starting all of these trilogies and side stories, and I'm just hoping they don't lose something by oversaturating a market, because what they have is gold, and I think the temptation is to go overboard, potentially.
Well, you've seen that happen too with Marvel. Some movies not necessarily clicking with audiences, and I mean, to some extent, we've seen that with Star Wars too. So
if you ask some people, they would say, I mean, it used to be. I mean, there was several years between each movie, and now they kind of pumped them out a little bit quicker.
Yep.
A lot of people aren't happy with it. I mean, we'll get to all of that. We do need to still discuss the movie, but that's and I was wondering how freely you would talk about that, since you did take some money from. Was it Disney or was it this website?
It was this website.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you think that there's any? We'll just jump into it. Is there any? They call it the fandom menace. Do you think that they have some good points from what you've seen?
Regarding this newest one?
Just that I would say it's like really it started with the prequels, and you mentioned that a little bit.
Yeah.
But now I feel like it's even more. From what I remember from those ones, it's way more intense now.
Oh,
people are like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
They're ruining it.
Yeah.
They don't do anything original. Why are they making these dumb decisions?
Yeah.
And
I think one big problem Star Wars has, which is a good problem to have, is they have so many fans.
Everybody loves it.
And there's so many very opinionated fans. And so multiple people multiple producers and the directors have said, we can't please everybody.
Yes.
There's just no way. And what has happened was JJ, I thought this was an interesting decision to split the trilogy among 2 directors and 2 writers, because they had JJ Abrams and then they had Ryan. And Ryan went a different direction than JJ would have.
He said,
and JJ was very open about how he disagreed with Ryan's decisions. And then back to JJ.
Yeah.
So it created a little bit of disjointed storyline, which I feel like that's what polarized it. Was you either have J.J. Abrams fans or Rian Johnson fans, and they're both appealing to a different crowd. And
exactly.
that J.J. is appealing mostly to nostalgia. When The Force Awakens came out, everyone was like, "It's a new hope! I love it!"
It's just remade.
Yeah, and then Rian Johnson came out and did his, and Luke's all of a sudden this Jedi who potentially was going to kill somebody. And it jarred everyone out of like, no, Luke's my hero. He wouldn't do that. And Mark Hamill had struggled with it.
I kind of agree with that, but
yeah,
he eventually came around because he said like to Rian Johnson, like, quote, I fundamentally disagree with
your idea of his character.
So I'm curious of kind of what exact. Well, I remember him saying like because there was a documentary on the DVD called like The Director and the Jedi.
Yeah, I watched it.
And he said it was very good.
Very good.
He said something along the lines of like the character is not that the character's no longer mine, but
Yeah.
he knew he wasn't directing the movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he said that. He said, I get to borrow the character
right.
when I'm acting, and I know it's the writer's decision, but it doesn't make it any easier.
And he spent so much time with him.
Yeah.
Too.
And he was that's the one character that really propelled him, other than voicing the Joker on Batman animated series, which was like blows everybody's minds when they first hear about it.
Yeah.
And he seems like one of those actors that he never really
broadened his horizons. Are you gonna say, or
well, like Harrison Ford, for example, like he didn't want the character of Han Solo. He didn't want everybody to remember him for just Han Solo.
A mega movie star.
Right.
Mark Hamill's just like
Mark Hamill never really let the character of Luke kind of weigh him down, or like if he was in like an interview with Jimmy Fallon or whatever,
he was like,
they'd want to talk about Star Wars. Like, yeah, it's great. Like he really embraced the fandom, whereas other people like Alec Guinness, who played the original Obi-Wan, he didn't want to be remembered for that character, and Luke's just like, bring it, I love it.
Well, Mark Hamill loves Star Wars, man. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
And Carrie Fisher didn't really break out of her. I mean, she did other stuff, but not much. And
she's like, I'm funny.
She is Princess Leia. Like that's
exactly.
Yeah.
I heard her autobiography was pretty good, but
I've heard she's a really good writer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also heard she tells some fun stories in there, like about
her
fling with a young Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
She's like, I need to let people know before I go. Back when he was hot.
When she was younger, she was friends with like a ton of the SNL cast from like the late 70s.
She was hilarious.
She's so funny. I love that. She's almost like a Roseanne type sense of humor.
Yeah, very
where it's just
edgy.
It's just like
doesn't really care.
Yeah, exactly. And you love that about her.
Yeah,
exactly. Are either of you familiar with The Witcher? It just came out on Netflix.
No.
Mm-mm. I've heard rumors that Mark Hamill's supposed to maybe play a major character
heard that too.
in that.
Really?
Yeah.
I'd be really excited. I would like him as that
like
character.
An old like wizard. Or something.
Yeah, he's kind of like the same. He'd basically be playing like like an old mentor sort of leader type dude. Is what it would be.
Right up his alley. I'm sure.
I know. I had seen on Twitter and stuff like that. He'd expressed interest in it, and that's like my new thing right now. I love that. Wholly recommend it, by the way. But I mean, I played the games and read like one of the books. I'm not like super, but I did love it, and I love Henry Cavill.
I've heard it's good for those who haven't played the games.
Yeah, it's still pretty solid.
It's not like nothing makes sense or anything.
So it's a series?
Yes, it is a series. It was a book. It was a book series, and then it was a really popular video game, and now they've made it into this Netflix show.
Okay, and the first season just came out.
Yes,
the
whole thing,
nice.
And it's been reviewing very, very well. It was one of their top shows for a little bit, but now it's like number 3, I think, for like all time. Because it's kind of hard to beat, Stranger Things and stuff like that.
Right.
But it's been popular. But let's talk about The Rise of Skywalker. What did you think? Give me your first and foremost, spoil as little as possible. Tell me about your experience of watching this. I know it was a special way that you got to see it.
Yes, it was. You seen it?
I did, yeah.
You have, okay, but you haven't.
I knew what was happening in the movie before it came out. I was one of those guys. I was like, all right, I'm going to listen to all these leaks, all the rumors and stuff, and be like, I can't believe they're doing that, and then they change the thing. So I'm familiar, yeah.
Okay. I went opening night here in the Quad Cities in those great comfy chairs.
I know, it's a nice theater.
It's very nice. My initial impressions, probably my least favorite of the 3 that just came out, which was very tough for me to swallow. And I went with a buddy of mine who loved it.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting discussion afterwards.
But that's kind of what
because he was like, so what'd you think? And he's like, I'll go first. And then he, said how great it was. And he was like, well, what do you think?
And you're like,
Let me have a moment of silence to gather my thoughts. But I guess in my nostalgic self, I was not as satisfied as I wanted to be with how many things were wrapped up. Yeah. And there were a few things that I was like, they just implied that this isn't the end, which they bragged about it as being the end. So I think they were setting themselves up for side stories.
Mhm.
At
And
least
to me,
Which is fair.
It's fair.
Disney Plus is really, I mean, I think they're going to put a lot of stuff on
I do
it,
too.
and it's
I
going to
do
be
too.
great.
it seemed like it was like the end of the Skywalker saga.
Well, that's what they
Mhm.
But
said.
they did leave a
It's
few
the end of the
storylines open
Skywalkers.
for further.
But you need
Yeah.
to have a Skywalker
Exploration.
in Star Wars. You know, that's kind of synonymous with it. And by the way, what a badass last name to have in the space age, man. I'm Mr. Skywalker.
When,
I know.
when Star Killer was a
I was
little
gonna
too
say.
much.
No.
They're like
I'm trying to think like
Skywalker.
what else is as cool and as perfect as that, like Star Watcher, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Skywalker's kind of like as good as it gets in terms of
It's
like
Pretty awesome.
that's a bad.
And it's hilarious to think, like, zoom out and put yourself outside of the universe that you know and love.
Yes.
How weird these would have come off in the 70s when this movie came
To hear
out.
these names.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like, what in the world?
Yeah.
Or Skywalker?
Yeah,
Bunch of
exactly.
Nerds, like
Yeah.
you said. It sounds like a
Nerds.
nerd movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And now it's everybody knows
now
it.
it's super cool.
Yeah.
Right.
So I felt like, and this is my fault again
Mhm.
too. I feel like Mark Hamill. I wanted the story to go in a different direction than
Yes.
it went, and that's my own fault. I had expectations that I thought would have made the story better, because we're all writers, right?
Yeah,
we could have done a
exactly.
better
Oh,
job.
yeah.
Yes.
But I was like, oh man, I wish they would not have gone that direction. But as far as visual effects, it's unbelievable. It's
Mhm.
unbelievable. And another thing is they seem to, and I'm even going to sound like the critic, but what I've noticed as technology has progressed
Mhm.
in the Star Wars franchise, story has suffered as a result of visual effects,
Mhm.
where it's like, you know what? We can do bigger and better now.
This will look cool.
So we'll just
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah.
So instead of one Star Destroyer, which in A New Hope was like all we needed,
Crazy.
it was
Now
like,
there's
whoa.
now there's like
Now there's
10,000.
like, yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
like we've got to top that.
Yeah.
And for me, story is lost a little bit in all the muddle of that.
Mhm.
And that really started with the prequels too. That was a lot
Mhm.
of people's big. You know,
Well, that's the
but
thing.
between the trilogy, he started ILM and this
Yeah.
huge visual
Right.
effects.
Because the
sound,
originals,
so
it
he
was
really-
very practical effects.
Oh,
It was puppets
very.
and stuff like that. The prequels,
Which made it awesome.
Yeah, the prequels, it was almost entirely CGI, and now
Mhm.
I think they're kind of getting back to a better happy medium where they use
Yeah.
a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Because
And they talked about how important it was for Ryan and JJ.
Yes.
They wanted as many practical effects
Mhm.
as possible.
that's what
And-
people like about it. You
Yeah.
know? And when I see these aliens, I want it to be like a dude had to sit in a chair for 10 hours to
Right.
turn into that. I don't want him to, a graphic artist to have done it.
Yeah.
And they did a really good job of that in The Mandalorian, like with the little baby Yoda. You've seen.
Oh yeah. Well, you
They
can just
did
tell
great.
you can tell
Yeah.
the difference between.
It's so much better looking because, like,
yeah.
I think
So it is physical? It was a,
yes.
yeah.
I mean, but they touch it up.
Yeah.
So now I think what they do is they do the
Like the
practical-
foreground is
do
practical,
it up.
and then the background
yeah,
could be green
they'll
screen.
edit.
Like
Or
what they
or
did
they'll
with
put in
Tatooine when they
Yeah.
do reshoots. that
or
sort
they'll
of
put
thing.
in the little touches on their face and stuff like that. But it was excellent.
Hmm.
So we can go kind of like shot by shot in a second, but I kind of want to hear the overarching opinion that you have as well, Jordan, because it's not all about the guy who was lucky enough
Yeah.
to,
Yeah,
to watch
seriously.
for money.
I
Did
saw
you get
the-
hold on? Did you get any cool shit?
I got an R2D2 popcorn maker.
You did.
Oh yeah.
Yes, and a Chewbacca onesie,
That's awesome.
zip up.
I did see some of that.
And a Nerf blaster, Han Solo Nerf
Yeah.
blaster, and then all of them on Blu-ray,
All the Blu-ray.
including the 1 through 6 with 40 hours of bonus
I was going to say,
materials.
did it have
Oh, sweet,
all
the behind the
full
scenes
thing?
Mhm.
That's almost like when you get to like the Lord of the Rings super special uncut directors exclusive.
Oh my
edition.
goodness!
It's like each movie's 4
Devour
hours,
it.
and you're like, I'm okay with this.
I know.
You know what I mean?
And then $1,000 on top of
Yeah.
that, which
yeah,
was
there
nice.
you go.
That's
Didn't
pretty
spend it all
sweet.
in one place.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I spent it on Star Wars
Uh,
stuff. They
yeah.
knew they were going to get you.
What I mean, like you said, the visual effects, the score was great. I just kind of walked out of the theater wishing I could have felt more, like,
Mhm.
because a lot of the scenes that they wanted to kind of have like an emotional kind of resonance with the audience didn't
They
necessarily
forced it
have
too
that.
quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, what the parts that I did like about the movie, the elements that were added, I think, and a lot of people would agree, should have been kind of spread across the whole trilogy.
Mhm.
I liked the rebel band of stormtroopers that eventually Finn meets, and like, oh, there's other people like me that have disbanded, I suppose.
That's the part that upsets me.
From the because they seemed like such cool characters, and there was a couple books in the expanded universe that had some like rebel stormtroopers that were just tired of killing innocents, and so they just kind of went off and did their own thing, and those were really cool books. So seeing that in Rise of Skywalker, I thought was cool.
Well, Finn himself is such a cool. They did not do it like a turncoat stormtrooper, man. Like how cool it is like that. Like I want to see more with that storyline, and they didn't give it to us like I wanted it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was
like we've never seen that except for the books that you're talking about. But I didn't read those.
Well, it really
did
felt.
You read those books?
maybe because there was so much in the movie, but it felt like the closest thing to the old expanded universe books that I used to read. But I mean, also because in one of them, Palpatine comes back as like a clone, and he tries to he tries to I think kidnap the Skywalker twins of Han and Leia. But so it already seemed kind of familiar that like, oh, Palpatine's back, and that when you first heard his laugh in the trailer, I just remember thinking like, man, I hope they have a good reason for bringing him back, because they needed like a big bad above.
Well, you're right.
Kylo
Killed
Ren.
Snoke.
Right, which I think was
so it's like
if that threw so many people off with that decision, and also like, well, everybody's biggest questions going into Last Jedi were who was Snoke and what's Rey's backstory, and so to hear,
and then
they really teased it going into the movie. Even Rian Johnson did too, and so hearing, or finding out that Rey's nobody. I remember sitting in the theater and thinking, that's great.
Yeah.
Because that to me is Star Wars. Like you can be whoever you want to be and have these Force abilities and
I mean, there's a certain bloodline there that people, you know what I'm saying, like the whole Skywalker thing, and then the Solos now, but also I don't know, the midi-chlorian thing, and
which they probably to a lot of people's happiness. I guess they didn't really touch on the midi-chlorians again.
That's
in the sequel trilogy, but
because you're right, it is better when you kind of think that almost anybody could like attain that. But before you continue, I just want to interject that like I don't like how far they went with that with Rey, where it's like I am just magically better than everyone.
It seemed like a pretty rushed thing with all her Force abilities because especially the timeline of Last Jedi itself is kind of crazy. With they're on the run the entire movie, but then they're in Canto Bight for a while, and then Rey's on the island. But throughout the movie, she couldn't have spent a whole lot of time with Luke training, right? And then she had the beginning of Rise of Skywalker. She was doing like the training course. So I don't feel like we were ever really told how much time she had to really train and really hone her.
But they put that in there because they needed to. I know they were like, oh, people are like, why? Is she all this? We have to show her training to some degree.
Right.
You know.
So you heard about Rey's true bloodline
lineage, yeah.
You did. Okay.
I was curious about your take on that, because I think that was my biggest beef with the movie was I liked having Rey as just her own person, because Star Wars I was worried was going to become like this like a closed circuit almost, like everybody either is related to each other or like oh, she's the daughter of, or he's the son of,
exactly. And this is why
or knows each other, because DC's kind of doing that now, like on their Arrowverse shows, which kind of my guilty pleasure, but the I was kind of worried that's what it was gonna become, and so when the rumor was actually true that she is Palpatine's granddaughter, I was like,
I mean, I guess.
Okay, but
you know what I mean.
And then I think they explained it well in the movie, because I thought like, okay, so she's gonna just kind of go about this like, I can be who I want to be despite my bloodline or my lineage, and I can be my own person. I went, okay, great. But then at the end of the movie, she says, I'm Rey Skywalker. Yeah. And I just thought, but you're not, though. Like, not, and I don't want to be like, I don't want to sound like a jerk or anything, because were they trying to...
I mean, I'm cool with the whole adopted daughter thing, but you're not like a Skywalker, you know.
And that's something that I think I've debated with my friends about. We were never really sure is, did she just feel that she was really raised by Luke and Leia for a little bit? There was even somebody was talking about when Ben Solo eventually gives his life force back to her, that part of his life force is now like part of her, and so now because of that, she just sees herself as a Skywalker.
Technically,
it's maybe a little bit of both. I was kind of curious what you thought.
Yeah, for me, again, obviously there were multiple theories going on.
Yeah.
The one that I wanted to come to fruition, a little different than yours. I thought, story-wise, it would have been a neat thing if she ended up being
a literal Skywalker,
Luke's daughter.
I think it would have been better.
Just because the way they played with Ben, Kylo Ren, with Leia and Han, and Luke apologizes to Leia for not getting Ben to where he thought and she wanted him to be. So I thought, well, how cool if at the end of this one we find out she is Luke's daughter and Leia is the one responsible bringing Rey to to stay on the light side of the Force. And so there's that cousin play where it's like Luke and Leia as brother and sister helping their children out, or lack thereof in Luke's case, and just playing off that family relationship, I thought would have been nice, and it would have pleased a lot of people, cool. I think. Yeah. So as soon as they said she's Palpatine's, I think a lot of people were like, what? Yeah. Like, it just is jarring that she's either a nobody, and then all of a sudden she's more than a nobody. She's the granddaughter of the worst.
Sith.
Yeah.
In a way, like Luke had that same, it's like Luke had that same kind of debacle at the end of Empire Strikes Back. He's like, oh, I'm Darth Vader's son. My father was once a Jedi, but now he's turned bad. So he kind of grappled with that same thing, but in this case, it's a lot different. It just felt like
you'd seen it before.
Was just kind of shoehorned in there, just to have a big bad
guy.
Yeah, and the whole it was a quick little thing there at the beginning that Snoke was just a clone, which I was, and he was like grown in like a Bacta tank or something, and I was fine with that, but I also just kind of wish there could have been some sort of allusion to that in Last Jedi, maybe like if he kind of says something or we kind of see something that kind of tells us, maybe this guy isn't really what he seems like. Maybe right before their fight, right in front of him, there's like some sort of, tube or some wires or something getting fed into his throne there, kind of like what they were doing with Palpatine and Rise of Skywalker. Just something to kind of say before we kill him. So
he went down fast.
I think him being a clone was the weakest choice that they could have made for that character. I think he could have been like I think he should have been like possessed by Palpatine. That I would have bought a little bit more than the clone thing. I would have been like, okay.
And they're exploring him a little bit more in the comics that they're releasing now.
Yeah, but how many people read the?
Not a whole lot. I mean, I think they've kind of left a lot of this space open for comics and new books and stuff. And that's one thing that I liked about the prequel trilogy was you didn't have to rely on other, and you don't necessarily have to for the new trilogy, but there was so much going on in the prequels. Like you immediately had a sense of what the Star Wars universe was going through with the separatist movement and all this stuff. And in the sequel trilogy, we really are only seeing a small sliver of everything that's going on.
Yeah, that's true.
Like we never see like Coruscant.
We
never really like how exactly did this First Order
come to
be able to stick around? There was, I'm assuming, some
that.
Sort of Imperial remnant that was able to build. So we just weren't really given a whole lot of context outside of the little bit that we were shown.
That they gave you, or
that's true.
Stuffed into the text crawl at the beginning, and it's like this is what happened the past several years. So yeah. Who was your favorite character in this new series? We'll do each one of us, but we'll start with you.
I would say,
and then explain your work.
Explain your work. Oh, I'm back in school.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do like a work citing page.
How many references,
MLA citation.
reasons?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good clarification. Are we talking new characters?
Yes,
or
the new.
Okay, all right.
New series. You
I
can't.
would say either Ray.
Mhm. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I actually am. I thought Ray was perfectly cast.
Oh, I love Daisy Ridley.
Oh my goodness,
She's gorgeous. First off,
Yeah.
She does a great job. In the same way that people don't like her characters, the same way they didn't like Hayden Christensen's rendition of Anakin.
Really?
In that, I was like, they're like, why does it seem off? And you're like, it's supposed to be that way. That they're supposed, like, they have that under the surface sort of thing going on.
I heard she was good in, was it Murder on the Orient Express?
I heard that
yeah.
too.
I heard she was good in that.
And she's in Knives Out, right? Isn't she in?
Is she really?
in
I think so.
Ryan Johnson?
Ryan
Something
Johnson, yeah.
else.
I still
think
need to see
so.
that. I've heard it's good.
Because I think it's going to be hard for her to get away from the whole Star Wars.
Yeah, which
Shadow,
is
too.
impressive that she has already done other stuff
So much stuff.
successfully.
Yeah.
And
So
she
maybe
has-
she's going to
yeah.
have better luck with
And
that.
then she has to be an idol to all this new wave of girls growing up that just watch Star Wars. She's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's cool. That's a lot of pressure,
Yeah.
you know.
I thought she handled the emotional ups and downs of it really well.
that rage right under there.
Yeah.
You can see in her face,
Yeah.
too.
And super relatable.
Mhm.
And one of those, there's always that fine line, which the original Star Wars played so well between the feminine and a good, strong character.
Yeah.
She played that really well.
Yes.
She was super feminine, super,
Mhm.
crushable,
Yes.
quote unquote, but also a very strong character. And
in a way that made sense.
yes, exactly.
Mhm.
So I would probably say Ray. A close second, Poe.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought he was fun. And he was purposely the counterpart of Han Solo, and I
Yeah.
really love Han Solo.
Mhm.
And so they really wanted someone in the
Must
cast
do.
who would be kind of that
Yeah.
rambunctious, go before,
Yeah. I'm rugged,
act
I'm
before you
handsome, I
think.
do what I want.
Right.
Sort
Yeah.
of thing. I did.
And an awesome pilot.
It's pretty
So
good, too.
Mhm.
Yeah, I did like that.
I'm kind of torn because I think all of the new characters they introduced were great. I just think it's what their stories that were eventually written, I don't think really sat right with.
So you think each
a lot of
each
people-
character arc was flawless?
Well,
Like
no,
even Finn?
but it was just some characters just seem so either underutilized.
Yes.
I mean, very well cast,
Mhm.
everybody, but it just seemed like so many new characters just didn't really have much to be
Be done.
like.
time to shine.
Like what's
Like in Rise of Skywalker, there was
what's her name?
the actress that
Yes.
her suit looked like a Power Ranger.
Oh yeah.
Carrie Russell.
Yeah.
Great actress, just not really given much to.
Nope.
And she has like a backstory with Poe that
Mhm.
so much new stuff that could have just been really expanded upon. But I think looking at all the characters' arcs throughout the trilogy,
Mhm.
I just think Kylo Ren / Ben Solo, I think, is my favorite.
I would agree with you on that one.
Just
It should have been about him. I think I wanted them to do way.
that's what a lot of people were kind of thinking it was going to be there at the end because
I like.
people
Yeah.
put so much importance on. Well, a movie needs a good villain anymore, especially when it's so superhero heavy.
Yeah.
That a lot of people thought Rise of Skywalker really was going to be more of a focus on him, and I mean there was enough focus on both of them,
Mhm.
really. So
Mhm.
I was happy with that, but I think if we're talking a journey from beginning to end with one character, I think
He had
Ben Solo is my
he had an
favorite.
amazing art.
Mhm.
I agree. I liked that a lot. What's his name? I can't remember off. He's an amazing actor too. He used to be a veteran, and then he
Adam Driver.
Adam Driver. Yes,
Mhm.
I've liked him in
Yeah.
everything else I've seen him.
And they were all very like I think Adam Driver was in Girls on HBO before,
Yes.
but they were all relatively unknown.
Unknowns.
Had only done a little bit of
Small
work
thing,
before the
yes.
movie, so
Well, that's kind of what they
Same
like to do with
with-
Star Wars. I think
Yeah.
they're like, let's
Yeah.
get the new and people and turn
other
it
than
into
Han
that thing.
Solo, that was really or Harrison Ford.
Well, because he had
in
only
the
been
original
in
trilogy,
Yeah.
that was the big.
a couple
Yeah.
of big ones before that. Well, I guess he was already.
He did
kind of
American
big.
Graffiti, I think.
Yeah, that
but-
was the big one.
Yeah.
That everybody
But he was
like,
still not. I mean, he was in his 30s already,
Yeah, he
and he
was
had
already-
People
he
knew
didn't
him
have a
at
huge
that
career.
I know. In junior high, I did a book report
on
Harrison
Harrison Ford. Really?
Yeah, did you know he used to be a carpenter and he was actually very successful?
know
He
that.
did not need to be an actor. He just
Yeah.
wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to do this movie? I'll build your set too.
Yeah, I can do it. I'll do everything. Yeah. It's
Fun
pretty-
fact, really fast, before we get into
Mhm.
it. Did you say Kylo Ren's your
I
favorite?
did.
Okay.
I like Kylo Ren, but let's go with your fact first.
I auditioned for Force Awakens.
Oh, seriously?
When they did that national audition, you remember that? Well, it was international.
For-
They were doing casting calls all over the globe
Yeah.
for.
I know I wanted to, but I remember in the sides they were like it wasn't anything.
I didn't. Yeah, the sides did not make sense at
And
all.
you're like,
and
okay, there's just a
I didn't really know.
There's a boy.
They ended up changing all the names, but it
Yeah.
was Ray and Finn. It came
Yes.
out later.
Uh,
So I did a video audition.
Yeah.
oh,
so
so you
today-
said something you were
Yeah.
actually like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
because you
wanted
could
to
either
do
go
it, too.
to one of the big
The
cities. Or,
descriptions were pretty ironclad though. They're like must be super intelligent, very good looking, and athletic.
yeah, I know. It's like
most
and
basic
strong-willed.
you can give.
And I was like, good, you so like the total package, and I'm like, good God, are they?
So who am I
Hey,
playing
kid.
here?
Yeah.
And then they ended up not going with anybody that I think. I think it was a publicity stunt that
Kinda
a lot
thing.
of people
Yeah.
Mhm.
went for. I don't know if they hired anybody from
I mean,
that.
I'm
but
sure somebody got some sort of side background.
you can be an
stuff.
alien in the cantina.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
In the back, you know, we'll hear you. We won't see you. But yeah, I did really like Kylo Ren. I really want them to explore more of the Sith dark side of the Force sort of thing, like to begin with, because that's like so cool.
Well, there was a planned, I think, a series that was going to be on Netflix. I think that the creators or writers or whatever of Game of Thrones were going to be making, and I think it was going to be
Yes.
heavily just about the origins of
That's
of the Sith.
supposedly why
That fell through.
they quit Game of Thrones,
Was to do bigger things.
and that's
yeah.
also
Really?
supposedly why
Slash
season 8 was such a dumpster
Yeah.
fire.
And so
I mean, in some
now-
people's
Yeah.
opinions, like mine.
You're opening up a whole other can of
Yeah, I
podcast.
They're like, let's get some of that free Star Wars money. Let's close this season up real quick, and then they don't even end up doing it. Like, God.
So this was before Disney purchased Lucasfilm,
Yes.
right?
No.
Oh no, this
No?
was not
This was
even a year
definitely-
ago.
So
that
this
they
was
had-
a year. They were like,
Oh, but Netflix was still housing Disney
Yes.
content.
yes.
So now that's not even a possibility for Netflix
Yes.
to do any Star
Mhm.
Wars stuff.
I would think, because I
They still have some.
I think it's solo. You can still stream solo.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just to
Probably 'cause they
they're
still
like
have an
a
agreement.
contract for
Agreements,
that.
yeah.
Exactly.
Because you can't watch Solo on Disney Plus right now.
No.
So they're waiting for it.
No.
Yeah.
But they have
Such
all the
transfer.
other stuff.
Yeah.
Even The Last Jedi, I remember looking on there. I was like, where's that one? And then they have that one on there too.
On Netflix still?
Yeah. No, on Disney Plus.
Oh, yeah.
Because originally it didn't.
What did you guys think about how the all the old familiar faces were dealt with in the new trilogy? So the big three of Luke, Han, and Leia.
I think that
R2D2,
they
C3PO.
did them dirty for the most part. I think that they
Well, they had to get after a while they really could only do what they could.
yeah.
Right.
Losing
With Carrie.
Carrie Fisher after Last
No,
Jedi.
they still used her.
They used a ton of her.
Yeah.
I was shocked how
I
much
know. It's
material
almost
they had
like,
of
come
her.
on, guys, can you you know?
And it worked for it was like archive footage that they were really
Yeah,
able
they
to
must have had a lot.
use well within.
CGI
Yeah.
and all her
Mhm.
lines
Yeah.
and stuff, and yeah, I love
And-
Carrie Fisher. She's always such a magnetic personality, and like every scene she's in, even now,
Yeah.
you're just like, oh my god, that's Leia.
I know.
Mhm.
Just watch her. She's-
Rewind.
Yeah, like just look at her talk to that person. Even though you're like,
She is.
That's her. Thank
Yeah.
God. Yeah, I definitely buy that she's in charge of this whole outfit.
Well, they
Yeah.
they definitely seemed with each movie kind of say we're this might not necessarily be so if they're ending the Skywalker saga, but we're really opening up the Star Wars saga to new characters
Mhm.
and kind of this will be the swan song for the
Yes.
Mhm.
the
Sort
big
of
three.
The
Yeah.
Skywalkers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which and I think in a lot of ways
Did
I
a
think
decent
they
job.
pulled it off
Mhm.
well. I think it came as a shock to a lot of people when Han Solo was killed in Force Awakens, obviously,
Mhm.
and then Last Jedi even more so.
Mhm.
That just
Yeah,
I don't know that
A lot of people were just.
I didn't like what they did.
I-
with Luke.
that was one thing that it shocked me at first, but the more I thought about it, that was my favorite thing about the Last Jedi was Luke's arc just within that one movie. I mean, the movie itself didn't necessarily propel the whole story forward.
Yeah.
But within that, I thought I really did enjoy what they did with Luke.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I still remember the goosebumps I got when it turned around and it was Luke, and she's like, "Here's
Yeah.
your lightsaber." I was like, "Oh my god!"
Well,
And it was like over, and it's
we
like,
sat
"What?"
through the whole movie, like, man, are we gonna see Luke anytime
Yes.
soon?
I
You're
know.
like, man, and then you're like, oh my god, it's him.
And-
Credits roll.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
And
come
even
on.
he said that. He was like, "I'm in it for like 3 seconds."
Yeah.
Here's what I need you to do, Mark.
and I
I need
got
you to
paid
turn
so
around, take your hood off.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Yeah.
"Okay."
But he really seemed to, in The Last Jedi, he touched on the idea that the idea of the Jedi was fundamentally flawed. And that was something that the books really touched on that I always
Yeah.
really liked. And
Their fall from grace too. Like
yeah,
they're so high and mighty, and then you're like, you guys, everything's kind of your own fault.
Mhm.
You know?
I think a lot of the hate kind of came from his death because he was force projecting himself onto another planet, and then
Yeah.
people were like, well, that doesn't exist. And I think they had kind of there was a couple books that each one had to do with like, here's a bunch of powers that the Jedi. It was like the Jedi
Yeah.
handbook, and then there was like the Sith code.
Mm-hmm.
There was something in the Jedi handbook about like force projection.
Yeah.
So it was there, but
I mean, I can buy it. Like with the Force, to me, it's open and just defined enough to where I'm like, okay, like they can do that.
Yeah, you can
know?
get away with almost
You know what I
anything.
mean? Like you can't fly.
yeah. Well, and that was I read a big thing that before the new trilogy was even released, that was something that they really wanted to touch on was all the stuff that the Force can do, and a lot of people were like, oh, we're not getting any like awesome choreographed lightsaber duels in this trilogy. It's like, no, that wasn't really what they were going for. They were really
prequels.
trying to get more.
I
out of
love
it.
Phantom
the
Menace
lightsaber
had-
fight.
Cannot beat
and
those,
that
yeah.
stuff, dude. I almost cry when I watch Obi-Wan and Anakin
Yeah.
fight each other. You're just like, there's so much payoff after all these years.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there was so much in Rise of Skywalker too that
That was cool. God,
had
I
to do
love
with the
his-
Force. Like,
that
oh,
new-
you can just
Mm.
give
That
your life
lightsaber.
force to somebody.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
There was a lot there that, especially in Rise of Skywalker, there was like when they released it, they said, we're going to be doing a lot of new things, and we're just going to put it out there and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See what people think.
Well, there was rumors of lots and lots and lots of reshoots. And I know
Yeah.
they had a lot of screenings where people literally were like busting out laughing and walking out and stuff. So I think this is kind of like a Frankenstein of a movie
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
were like, okay, well,
Spliced
let's go
together.
redo them. And that's
Yeah.
one of the biggest complaints I heard.
Well, these big studio movies have, especially with Marvel and DC,
Well,
have
like
a
Disney's
ton of
taking over.
reshoots. So whenever that's even released, people are like, oh my god, what's going to happen?
It's going to be terrible.
Yeah, well,
but
but
it
it's
doesn't
pretty
necessarily
routine
mean
No.
it's bad.
anymore with-
Yeah, with
yeah.
some stuff, but like for whole plots of the movie.
We're kind of getting some stuff like leaked out on Reddit and stuff. People who have sources who worked on the movies, kind of saying how things went, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe J.J. Abrams wasn't all that happy about the way Disney was handling things, but that's so
Yeah.
much speculation that
A lot of
that's
people
not
are
even
mad at
worth.
Kathleen Kennedy. Like, she's not a. And
It's just
Yeah.
another fandom thing. It's
I
just
think-
like, you gotta.
Yeah, I think somebody else needs to come to. I think John Favreau would be pretty good.
Well, they've got so much star power, I think, with just all the new shows that they're going to be rolling out here soon on Disney Plus. I think
Yes,
it's weird that the biggest thing everybody's going to want to go see, the trilogy, is what everybody's the most upset about in this new wave of
New
movies
stuff.
that they're putting
Yes.
out with the solo movies and
Yeah, people love.
series.
I mean, Solo.
So it's
I
kind of
really
weird to
love
think
it.
about. Like the biggest thing is what people see got mishandled.
Mhm.
I will say about Rise of Skywalker, C-3PO shined unlike he did in the previous two.
Mhm.
And in that I loved
needed
because I love C-3PO's
He's
character.
been
And he
there
had
the
that
whole
moment
time.
of sacrifice, which
Yes.
was really cool
Yeah.
to see. But he's hilarious. He is
Mhm.
probably the best comedic.
Yeah, he's always
Character.
really funny.
Yeah,
Um,
you've got
and
so many of these back-talking droids now.
Yeah.
So, well,
Yeah.
don't forget about the
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, we want him.
Yeah.
And I thought they played on Force Awakens. JJ did play a lot on nostalgia, and so when
That's
Princess
his
Leia
thing.
came out and
Yeah.
Han Solo, and their eyes lock,
Emotional.
and their theme plays.
Yes.
When I watched it in theaters, I'm like, oh, I
It was a
waited a
beautiful
long
moment.
time.
Yes. Yeah.
And just their banter that she says,
That's still
same
there.
jacket, same hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it.
Oh, it was so good.
I liked in Rise of Skywalker, the one scene that did really hit me out of all the ones that really should have packed like an emotional punch was when, the scene between Ben Solo, now that he's Ben Solo again,
Yeah.
and his memory of Han Solo.
Yeah.
That when he throws his lightsaber and he turns around and he said like he wanted to say like, Dad, I love you,
Mhm.
but couldn't bring himself to say it because he's been through such he took himself through such a, the Kylo Ren emo phase or whatever.
Yeah.
But he wanted to say I love you, and Han just said, I know. That was
Yeah.
I'm like
That was
that
good.
was
Yeah.
Star Wars. That was I was in the theaters being like that was the moment in Last Jedi where they light sped through Snoke's ship. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Yeah.
Right when they did that.
Laura Dern and her purple hair.
Yeah, I know her
Yeah.
purple hair.
Purple hair face.
And her listen to me just because sort of thing. I've heard complaints about that, but I really want to talk about with you guys what you think about the little romance between Ben Solo and Rey. Did you want them to do more? Should they have done less? Do you think that they just threw that in, or was it the seeds planted?
It just seemed like a forced thing.
Because they were like,
That's what I thought.
they were like,
Need it.
people want them to like hook
Well,
up.
and it's
Okay,
like-
let's put something in there.
Yeah, and they've propelled this idea of Finn and Rey
Yeah.
for the previous two movies.
Yeah, I didn't
And then all of a
think that was
sudden, she's kissing Ben,
I know.
and then goes back and is friendly with Finn.
Yeah.
And it felt weird because you're like, clearly you were very into Ben.
I know. Yeah, they had like.
It was
I feel
an
like-
odd. It was too. It did feel forced.
I definitely
They-
felt a tension there in
Yeah.
the Last Jedi, though.
They didn't even really allude to any sort of romantic relationship between the two before that, of Ben and Rey. If anything,
Right.
they had
There
this
was
connection
some.
through the Force. It was almost like a more brother sister.
That's
type
what I thought.
relationship
You think so?
when-
That's what I thought.
The way they always looked at each other, they was like, and you're just like, all right, so make out.
It's the Force.
Yeah, I
mean,
guess
come
so.
on.
When there was, I don't know how well, if at all, they really explored this in the movie, but people have been talking about Force dyads. They're just connected through the Force.
Just because.
And so I thought that was a cool thing to explore because we'd never really seen it before. But it's like, they just kissed there before he dies. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I
but
definitely
okay.
think that could have been more of a major arc thing. They could have really, there was potential behind that. And I liked it. Not necessarily the way they did it, but I like the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like they
Of
definitely
that.
could have done that.
Like,
It's
how
just
intriguing
they
of a
didn't
story
handle
would
it.
that be? And then she turns into the light side, and then they're like lovers.
Mhm.
You know, that's almost like
Yeah.
an opposite of what happened with Anakin and Padme. You know,
I thought that was going to happen.
Mhm.
I thought Ben would survive.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, well, then this is going to happen. But then he dies, and it didn't happen.
Yeah. So,
So-
what was that?
How was that?
He kind of fulfills the Darth Vader.
Arc thing.
Arc
Yeah, that's what they
similar
wanted
than
to
the
go
original
for.
trilogy, but-
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what did you think Finn was going to say to Rey before she flies off and does her own thing? Like,
I thought he was going to confess his love for her.
well,
But he
There
loves
was-
what's her the
the new character.
Rose.
There was
See,
a-
that
was
was.
it Rose?
Oh, Rose.
Oh,
He
she was in
did.
there.
She loved him. I don't
Yeah.
think he loved
Yeah, there
her.
wasn't much, and then she was like barely in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
But I think because there was speculation of like, oh well, is he going to tell her? Was he going to tell her that he loved her, or was he going to tell her that he's like kind of Force sensitive?
Mhm.
Like that was.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
I
it
see what
may.
you're saying.
I feel like I read it was going to be the latter, but
But then
I don't know.
didn't.
Again, it
Because I
wasn't much.
forgot about that part too.
Yeah,
that they threw in.
again,
Oh
there
my
was so
gosh,
much
he's
that was there.
powerful.
Yeah.
He has the Force. What's
Yeah.
his story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which will probably be.
Or at least
Get
like a little
something.
bit of it somehow. It's like he's not crazy powerful, but they kind of seem to allude to like everybody's got a little bit of the Force, but it just
Some people can
depends
actually.
on how you utilize it or how
access
much
it.
is there,
Yeah.
how many midichlorians you got. Apparently. But they didn't want to go all
Yeah.
go full midichlorians.
So now it's like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I one of the main like complaints that I see people like on all these forums and social media is the pacing of the movie. They seemed like they just crammed so much into it, and almost like it needed to be longer. Can you speak on that at all? Do you agree? Do you think it was like just the right amount? Were you okay with all how many wipes, Star Wars wipes we got? Woof.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're on another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it felt fast. It felt to me a little disjointed. Again, reading interviews afterwards, JJ confessed to it really was a struggle trying to fit Carrie Fisher's scenes in and work things around it. So some of the lines they got from her were not delivered the way that he would have wanted them. And I, because I'm a music nerd, watched an interview with John Williams talking about doing the music for Rise of Skywalker. He normally does the music in like 1 or 2 months. And it's not a big thing. The music for Rise of Skywalker took 8 months because JJ was shifting things around so much and so many times, and he'd come back in for a screening and JJ would be like, change the timing again, and John would be like, that's fine. And
they're probably getting so close to deadline.
Very. So you can just the stories you're hearing about how jigsaw puzzle-ish it was, you can see that in the movie. I think he did, considering what he had to accomplish with Leia. I think he did a great job.
Do you think they could have done it any other way, or did they kind of had to?
They had a little, the little that was there. I mean,
it was a struggle because they didn't kill her off in Last Jedi, and so they did have to do something. They knew they had to address her to the fans, and people would have been disappointed if. But the scroll happens and then she's dead. They're at Leia's funeral. So
the Ted speak. Leia's dead.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh, okay.
So I think they had a tough thing going for them. I thought it was really neat. JJ wasn't going to do any visual recreations of a young Luke and Leia. They did, and I thought it was very well done.
It was Billy Lord, her daughter, that was Leia.
And then they just adjusted
Did they use her for Rogue too? Because that was almost eerie looking to me.
They
Rogue was a little, sure. That's why I think the recreation in this one was far more accurate. There was something unsettling about the one where you're like, "Oh, are you real? Yeah. So I thought that. I mean, that was a nice nod. Yeah.
Pacing was, because it jumped around so quick. Like they went to 6 different places just within that first hour. They got to get this trinket, which will then lead them to another trinket, which will hopefully help them find Exegol, the Sith planet, it's the Last Jedi kind of had that issue too. With I think I talked about earlier that they're on the run the entire movie, but then we got to set aside some time for them to be on Canto Bight, find this slicer, and then it's tough, but I mean, he had quite a weight on his shoulders in general for Rise of Skywalker to end the story and to please,
and retcon a lot of what they did in the
he had to please the fans who did like Last Jedi, and those who didn't. And I think he was kind of pulled to more one side, unfortunately, and it's tough. So that's kind of why I went in with not necessarily high expectations, because I knew the level of pressure that.
Well, had you heard all the, all like the controversy going into the movie? Either
I purposely
avoided it.
Yeah, for the most part, because I saw 1 or 2.
I saw way more of that than I saw like hype. You know what I mean?
Well, I think JJ was brought in because they, like the original. I mean, they had 3 separate directors lined up early. The third director was going to be, he directed Jurassic World.
Oh,
and then
Trevorrow, Colin
Trevorrow made Safety Not Guaranteed. It's an amazing indie movie.
He's a great director.
And then he made some sort of indie movie after Jurassic World that didn't do so well, like critically or domestically. And so there was rumor that Disney took away Rise of Skywalker from him because that movie didn't market so well.
Interesting.
Whether or not that's true, I don't know. And then they just
because I did hear that Colin was going to do one.
Yeah. So it was that.
And they didn't
I hated
want
to hear
Ryan
that
again.
because
Yeah, they didn't want Ryan again because nobody seemed to be happy with The Last Jedi.
Yeah, and actually the only article I saw, or one or two, was the fact that it was the worst Rotten Tomatoes score
for
any
a
Star Wars film.
movie.
Last-
Just above.
Last Jedi was?
No, Rise of
Oh,
Skywalker.
Rise.
of
Oh, right.
Skywalker.
It was.
It's just
That's true.
above second worst, I think. It's just
about,
above
like,
Phantom Menace.
Mhm.
Or vice versa. It might be the worst. And so that was the only thing that I saw where I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
And a lot of critical. It
And-
wasn't meeting
Yeah.
financial expectations
Like the
at the
money
first
thing.
release.
They said it lost $100 million in its second week. So like the first week they
From
made
their
174 million, and then the next week only 70 million.
Oh, wow.
I
Yeah.
think it just kind of became one of those things where people are just going to go see it that first weekend just to see how they're wrapping it up. And then
But
that's
there's
it.
so many Star
Because
Wars
I
fans.
kind of fell into that category too.
Yeah.
And then they, wrote about it and slammed it, and
Yeah.
that affected
A lot
the
of
second
people
weekend,
did.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw
It's just kind of
there was definitely a lot more people hating on it, like on YouTube and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That is true.
A lot of critics.
Mhm.
But there wasn't so much hate thrown at Ryan Johnson, especially from Disney, because they, and this could have just been kind of a marketing thing when they were releasing it, but I think before the movie was even released, Disney said they loved it, and they'd already
Mhm.
given Ryan Johnson clearance to make a new trilogy. Not a Skywalker trilogy, but just something in the Star Wars
Mhm.
universe. And I don't know if we know anything about what it
That's
is.
probably not.
I haven't heard anything about it since
No.
then. And I'm assuming he still has the green light to make
Yeah,
it,
it's
but-
still on IMDb.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Well, then yeah, I guess we will see. I don't know.
I think it's one of those things with all of these new films. Give it time,
Yeah.
because we're looking at the old.
Versus the.
Well,
Well,
we
George
saw
Lucas
it
was
30
the-
years after it came
yeah.
out,
That's true.
and we grew up with the nostalgia of the originals,
Mhm.
and so we're locked into that. Whereas now we're so judgmental. We tend to be so judgmental of the new ones because we're comparing them. But give it a few years. Just like, again, I was rewatched the prequels, and I'm like, they stand alone
Actually
pretty
not
well.
that bad, yeah.
I think we just get so
Mhm.
hyped about it right in the moment, and then you give it time, you look at it again, you're like, wow, I
Actually
get
like
what they
this.
were
Yeah.
doing here.
Mhm.
And I've always just thought give it time to be made too, because especially with Rise of Skywalker, we see how hard it can be to meet a deadline and get a
Mhm.
movie, edited
Mhm.
and post production and all that stuff. But it's Star Wars. People are gonna see it.
Right.
give it time,
Yeah.
because this is something that's pretty precious to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Maybe too much so for some.
Yeah.
But give it time. People will see it because it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's very true. Well, I still love Star Wars,
Mhm.
even if it didn't do everything I wanted it to do. And I think
Yeah.
you gentlemen can probably agree with me. But I also didn't hate the prequels. I think, what was the first Star Wars movies that you saw? Was it the original?
Yep.
Because I
4,
was
5, 6.
probably when did the prequels come out?
98 was when Phantom Menace came. 98 or 99.
99, I
99.
think. Because I remember just barely seeing it in the theater.
Me too. I remember going to see Spider-Man 2. No, it was the first Spider-Man instead of, I think,
Oh, Phantom Menace?
the Revenge of the Sith. I think I watched Spider-Man.
Mm.
Oh,
instead.
yeah, Revenge of the Sith.
So that would have been around 2007.
I think it was 98 because I think they came out 4 years apart. I think it was 98,
Okay.
2002,
Yeah,
and
it was like-
2006.
Yeah, so in
Okay.
2006.
Yeah.
That's right.
Do you remember the first time seeing A New Hope?
Yes. It
I
was
saw
on
that one
VHS.
first.
Yeah.
And I was probably 6, 7.
Yeah.
I was really young.
My dad was into it. That's how I saw it. Yeah, I loved it too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I may have seen The Empire Strikes Back first. I think for some reason my dad was like, "No, you got to watch The Empire Strikes Back first."
What's your favorite out of the 9? We haven't said that.
Oh, sure.
I don't know.
I mean, that topic has to be broached.
That is true.
I mean, it's everybody's favorite answer. But I really like Empire Strikes Back because
Same.
I think that was the book that really, because I'm biased because I loved the old books, the books that were thick as a brick, and there's so many. There were so many.
Paperback. Yeah, there was.
That was the movie that kind of gave way to, they built on like, oh, you see these bounty hunters for,
Mhm.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
They introduced so many characters. Like, okay, we can build on this.
And they do.
Making
That's, Star
it
Wars is notorious for that. If they're on screen for 2 seconds, they have pages and pages about them.
Yeah.
And like so much like lore implications. Like
Yeah.
I've seen some of that. It is crazy.
Yeah.
But for me, it would have to be, I don't know. I really like Return of the Jedi and Revenge of the Sith.
Mm.
To be honest, like the third,
Yeah.
the final act for each of the original ones.
That was a big one to see in the theater, Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I
remember
remember
seeing it for my
everybody's
birthday
packing
and just
Yeah.
being like,
with their,
I wanna
their
see this
lightsabers and things.
countless times.
Because everybody knew like what was coming. You're like, oh, they're gonna fight.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
gonna turn into Darth Vader.
Yeah.
You know, so
The
everybody was
last
in
15 minutes are just
Yes.
everything we all wanted
crazy.
to
Yeah.
happen and
Mhm.
see.
And that wasn't hard to pull off either.
Mhm.
Like, to think about the flack that those movies went through as they were being released, and then to pull it off fairly well in that last movie.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to say about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because everybody, even if they're like, I don't like the prequels, they're like, I mean, Revenge of the Sith was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did cry.
Yeah, I mean, it was
Yeah.
emotional, but I didn't want to. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was super good.
Yeah.
All of them. Well, what do you think is next for Star Wars? I mean, they've already said that they're holding off on any movies for a little
Mhm.
while. I see a
Yeah.
lot of potential in Disney Plus. Mandalorian's been doing very well. It's very, very good.
Yeah.
It's basically just like a serialized Western style type thing that they did
Yeah.
with it, which works
Yeah.
really well with a sort of like what the Mandalorians are and what
Mhm.
they've become so far in the series. I think the Mandalorian is set before the sequels and directly after
Okay.
Return of the
Re-
Jedi.
yeah, between 6 and 7.
Oh,
I
okay.
think
Yeah.
so.
And they do a good job of showing that, too.
So there was I can't believe they didn't use Baby Yoda at all in the movies.
Yeah.
It just seems such implications for that.
There's
There's
they
speculation.
haven't released too much about. Yeah, we still have yet to know. And yeah, that's all I'll say. I don't want to, because I know you haven't watched it yet.
Yeah,
I haven't.
And
He
so
can't.
I don't want
But
to.
it's amazing.
But it seems like that's going to be everybody's.
Well, now I don't even think
Favorite.
because they didn't even have any toys ready to go.
Yeah, that was
So
crazy.
they did not plan
They
on it
were
being-
rushed to have Baby Yoda merch
Yes.
before
Yeah.
the holidays.
I don't think they expect. I mean, I think they kind of did, but they obviously didn't expect people to love it that much.
I haven't heard a negative word about Mandalorian.
Yes,
Compared
not
to
at all.
all the
Other
films.
than the
It's
episodes
just-
are too short.
Yeah,
That's
I
my
mean,
only
it's
complaint.
literally people
Mhm.
are raving about this show.
Yes.
So I think they were probably caught off guard
Yes,
how
I think definitely
popular
caught.
it was.
They're like, oh my god, we got to make these toys
Yeah.
real quick.
Yeah.
We just lost
They want
100 million.
toys!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, now it's we kind of hope that, and now they're going to have this Obi-Wan series,
I'm so
They're gonna
excited for
have-
that. I love Ewan McGregor. I
Mm.
love
Oh,
Obi-Wan
yeah.
character.
and he's had to stay silent about that for so long.
I've seen him talking about that on talk
Because
shows.
it's like, is it going to be his own movie?
Yeah.
Because they were going to roll out all these movies, right? There was going to be Yoda,
Mm-hmm.
Obi-Wan, Boba Fett. They had a
Yes.
director lined up for the Boba Fett movie.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming maybe they've kind of, after Solo underperformed, even though it was still good, they kind of put those on the back burner.
And that's why Disney
Now
Plus
they're-
series is perfect for
Mhm.
literally everything you
Yeah.
just said.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's what they need to do. They can so many more hours to do it. They need to make the episodes an hour.
Well,
Right now they're only like
they're pretty
38, 40 minutes, and you're just like, God, it's just so quick. Like I just want to spend
Yeah.
more time.
Well, they've got a lot of room. I mean, they're doing a Cassian Andor series.
Yeah, that'll
They're-
be good.
They're doing another season of Clone Wars.
I was gonna
And-
say, did you watch the animated
I haven't
stuff
seen the
yet?
animated ones.
No,
Mhm.
not even one episode.
No.
I've seen
I
just a
listened to
little.
the
I've seen
soundtrack.
just a little bit though.
They're good. I mean,
Everybody
it
loves
took a little while for
Ahsoka.
Clone Wars to have
Yeah.
a story like throughout the entire season.
Hmm.
The first couple seasons, it was just like
Here's a thing. Now
you're
here's
getting
another thing.
you're getting plopped into this battle,
Yeah.
and here's what happens here. So I don't think it's till like season 3 that you actually get like a
an overarching
Yeah.
thing.
Hmm.
certain characters. Do you think were gone? May
Yeah, no,
come
I-
back.
yeah.
Same with and Rebels is really a sequel series to Clone Wars because those are
Mhm.
both canon,
Mm.
and so
Well, yeah, they have
Those are
certain
both.
characters in the new movie, right? Like with the voices that you hear.
yeah. Oh, and in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
Not from the shows. They had some characters from the prequels, I think, that did the voices in
Like the Force
In
Ghost thing.
Ray's head,
Mm.
but I don't think any of them were from the shows. Like, I think Mace Windu and Qui-Gon Jinn were in there, but it
Yeah.
happened so quickly.
Yeah.
Heck,
yeah.
I couldn't tell who
It's
was.
hard to tell. Yeah.
I could tell Yoda, but that was it.
Yeah, he's easy to spot.
Yeah.
I think Star Wars is I think they'll take a break with
Mhm.
theatrical releases.
Yeah.
To let a little more anticipation build,
Yes.
and they'll start cranking out Disney Plus
Which
stuff.
they should. I think that's
Yeah.
really a good place.
And that's an easy way for them to continue storylines and please fans without as big of a risk, probably
Yes,
financially. And then they'll give it a few years, and I'm sure they'll do more theatrical
Oh,
releases.
they need to.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
People like to
what
see
they'll
Star
do.
Wars on the big screen.
They do.
Yeah.
That's
And-
kind of part of the thing. Like, it's so synonymous with that big cinema
Right.
experience. You're there with 1,000 other people.
Right, exactly.
You know,
You're all bonding
Yeah,
about
I know.
this.
You're like, isn't this so great? I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
Who are you?
great. Yeah. You know, doesn't matter.
I like your tent that you're
Yeah.
camping out.
Yeah.
on
It's
Florida.
like, dude, you can get a ticket right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's not a thing. That's a stupid joke. Disregard that.
The last time
That's
I waited.
our-
Yeah, it was our generation.
Our generation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
We're
last
old
time
now.
I waited in a tent was for the Nintendo Wii in like 2000.
Oh, really? Wow.
Something. Yeah.
Wow.
I slept in a freaking sleeping bag in a tent outside of like a
Best
shop.
Buy or
I
something?
think.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's people that even bring barrels to have like they
Yeah,
put a
I
fire
know.
in and
I know, warm there.
warm
I
this.
remember I got some hot chocolate sitting there waiting, and then like I was like, there was only 4 people behind me in line that got like the numbers for each Wii. I remember that, and I was like, yes, I
Yeah.
did it. Yeah. And now I'm like,
Yeah,
wow,
people don't do that
yeah,
anymore.
no, you don't really have to.
No.
Unless you really want something, or they're not going to have enough. But
Right.
anymore, it's like, but I mean, it was an experience. But looking back, I'm like, I can't believe I did that.
Yeah.
It wasn't even that great. Like, I mean, I had fun with it, but it was like, wow, you know.
Yeah. It's just, that whole idea of midnight releases anymore. It's like, oh, we'll see it when we see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Like,
Yeah.
I've gone to a few at GameStop, but it's never anything crazy like that. Everyone's just in line, and you're like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see Star Wars continue. I mean, we kind of seen history repeat itself a little bit with
Yeah.
there was like our generation. We liked the prequels
Mhm.
because
That's what was
They-
new when we were like really.
well, and if it weren't for the prequels, we wouldn't be such big fans as
No.
and we can still point to the flaws in
Yeah.
those, but now we're the generation that looks at this new trilogy and
We're
we're like,
like, the old ones are way better.
yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
so, and I mean that could easily
Yeah,
happen again,
Mm-hmm.
that is true. It is kind of similar in that situation.
Yeah.
I had a really great question that I just forgot I was going to ask you guys. What was it that you just said? That everybody were old. And...
History kind of.
Oh,
repeats
okay. Am I
itself.
crazy or am I not crazy? I
You
had
are.
the original. Yeah, that's true. I had the original, like on VHS, like some old ones, man. Okay, and I swear, on my life, one of the copies of A New Hope that I had, they blew up Earth instead of Alderaan. I swear, I
He
remember
ran that by
seeing
me
that.
yesterday. I'm
I
like,
swear.
nah.
But no one,
think so.
no one else is like, I don't know what you're talking about. I've tried looking it up online, and I'm like, it's all dead ends. But I so distinctly remember because I had 2 copies of A New Hope. Like they were both VHS. I think they were my dad's, and one of them the only difference was that Han shot first, and then they
Right.
blew up Earth.
Well,
And then I had the other one.
and I think it confused me when you told me, like, did you think it looked like they blew up Earth, or they said
I think they said
they blew up Earth?
They said Earth instead
Like
of
that's where the plans
Oh,
were.
Wait, in
Or
the
not.
dialogue.
yes.
Oh.
Okay.
I think
I don't.
It's
But
a
why?
galaxy far,
But
far
why
away,
would I
though.
think Earth though? And like it's clearly none of those. They don't mention Earth any other time in the thing. So why?
did you dream it?
Yeah, I
know,
think
maybe
you-
I dreamed it. But I'm telling you,
Yeah.
like this was the
Dreams
original.
can be vivid.
Because in this
Yeah.
copy,
I
Han
think
still
you have
shot the
your
dude first. So like, it's like the super before they edited
Uh,
it differently and.
I think
I
you're
don't know.
creating
I
your
don't
own expanded
remember that.
universe in your dreams.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it's
Maybe
easy
I
to
am.
superimpose your
Because
own
I would have been
reality
so young.
into a movie.
That's true. I would have been so young. But,
Yeah.
But even back then, I remember being like, "Why is this one different than the other one that I have?" And I watched that one, and I'm
That
like,
is
"What is it
bizarre.
that's different?" Like
Maybe someone tampered with your
Yeah,
copy.
maybe,
yeah.
Some
put it
film
in
editor had a
I
great
don't
time.
know.
I don't think that was one of the changes that George Lucas made.
Yeah, like, it's like
No.
it shouldn't be, but maybe it was. I don't know. I know it sounds impossible, but I swear I so vividly remember them being like, "You're gonna blow up Earth." I'm like, I can't believe you blew up Earth.
Well, maybe you'll start like an international scavenger
yeah,
hunt
exactly. A
for
scavenger
that
have
copy.
it, or like it's just a conspiracy theory that just I believe. I don't know. I thought I was hoping you'd be like, you know what? I do remember that being on an old
I
one."
wish I could for
Yeah,
your sake,
but
but
no.
no. It was
You
always
There's so many.
once Alderaan, always
It was
Alderaan.
always
Yeah.
Alderaan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, I'm sure we could talk for the rest of the night
Whatever,
about
I know, but I think we've talked about everything we needed to talk about. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for coming in to talk with us.
Absolutely.
This was great. Anytime I
fun.
can talk about Star Wars, I want to talk about Star Wars.
It's great. Same
Yeah.
here.
Maybe next time there's a big, I don't know, trilogy or, maybe when the Obi-Wan series wraps up or something. Or
Whatever
anytime.
you-
Yeah,
Just have
maybe
another
I'll have.
Star Wars
Yeah,
or-
maybe I'll have to have you come back in. We
Your
can talk
chat
about.
and-
It'll be fun.
You need to watch some.
I need to catch up on Mandalorian.
Yeah, you need to watch that.
Yeah.
'Cause we could have talked about that for another hour.
Yeah.
And any updates too on your career in music.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
and
is there
Okay,
anything
I
you
will.
want to plug?
Awesome.
Well, if John Williams, if you're listening, I'd really like to meet you.
Yes, of course.
So if you could get this to John,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm doing right now, I just worked on an album for a company called Telepictures, and they're owned by Warner Brothers, and they do a lot of music licensing for Warner Brothers television content and stuff. So I'm just slowly working my way into the industry, and it's just kind of neat to see. So many people have told me, obviously most of the business in film scoring and filmmaking is in LA, but with technology being what it is today, that is becoming not a necessity, and I'm really excited to be on the fringe of that. And if anyone's listening and has interest in filmmaking and doing anything, it's possible, and that's what I
have to move out.
Yeah, and that's what's thrilling to me is that I'm pursuing film scoring, fairly for a Midwesterner, fairly successfully right now, from Iowa.
Yeah.
And so don't let your location determine what you
can do.
Yeah, your dreams, your passions, and it's pretty cool. So
If Star Wars has taught us anything, you can be who you want to be.
Yeah, that's
thank
exactly
you.
right.
What a great
Make
way
it
to
happen.
close.
That's a great segue. Yeah, thank you. And on that note, thanks for listening, everybody, and hopefully in the comments you'll let us know what you think about Star Wars.